Hi, it's Mike with AskATractorMike.com. This is Sam. And Sam was my service manager when I worked at S&H Farm Supply, where we're at right now. And he's a guy that knows a lot about tractors and skid loaders and hay balers, just about anything you can work on. And occasionally I get a technical question, and if it's much over my head, I call Sam and say, Sam, what's the answer to this? And he tells me, and then I reply. And I thought I'd just bring him on this video because we've got a situation with a customer who's concerned about the rate of drop of their loader. And I'm going to read the question, and then we're going to get Sam's reaction to it. It's a question that is specific to Coyote tractors, but this could be really any tractor.
Right.
Because they all kind of share similar components in the hydraulic system, in the loader operational system. Anyway, here's the question. I did a video on this in 2020, and he watched that video, and he said after watching that video, his bucket is dropping 7 to 8 inches an hour as he's using the tractor. And he says, I've gone back and forth with the dealer a few times on if this leak down is within spec, but something you mentioned in your video made me wonder if I'm making a mountain out of a molehill. And the problem when you got this situation is you're like brush hogging in the field. You've got your loader bucket up, and you're constantly having to bump the joystick lever. It's annoying. I get that. And he says you talked toward the end of the video about the guy sitting in his yard watching his loader drop and measuring it. We remember this guy. This was a customer here that we had that had this problem, and I don't know how much we want to talk about that because the guy could be watching, but he bought a tractor and he was fixated on the loader staying in the air.
Right.
And I'm doing all the talking. I'll let you talk here in a minute. The old tractors, loaders would stay in the air, and new tractors, they tend to have a little bit of a drop over time. They'll if you leave it in the barn up here, it's going to be down at the bottom eventually. Am I right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And so we had a guy that was convinced it needed to stay up for weeks on end, and we both got to know him well, and really wasn't anything we could do for him. So anyway, my customer Jeremy says the last thing I want to do is be that guy, but he's worried, and I'm just going to summarize this. Is it going to get worse after the tractor's out of warranty, and should he press the dealer to fix it now? I'm going to let Sam talk now. Tell us what's going on in the hydraulic system, what the dealer needs to do here, and is Jeremy over worried about this problem?
As a whole, with most of these tractors, there is going to be some leak down. Coyote in particular has a formula for understanding how much is allowed per cylinder size, per rod size, and then over how much time frame to allow that cylinder to leak down. While operating it, driving around, most of them should not ever drop any, but we do see that they are going to have bypass. The two places that a machine can bypass the hydraulic oil would be one in the cylinder itself, the internal packings, which will allow it to bypass internally. You may never see a leak on the outside, and it's all leaking internally.
And that's something that needs to be corrected because that will get
that will get worse. The other would be leaking back through the actual control valve. The valve, they're built with no seals except for the external one that keeps the oil basically inside the valve. But internally, there's no seals. It's just metal spool with a metal housing of the valve. The oil can bypass across that. So those are the two places that would cause a leak down to happen. The easiest is first look, is there any oil on either cylinder? And if the cylinders are dry, then you have to expect a internal leak. And then you have to determine which one of those two, if it's a cylinder leaking internally or if it's the valve, the loader valve itself that's leaking.
And that's pretty easy for you to do here in the shop.
Right.
And tell us how you do that.
For us here, we would unhook the hoses with the machine up or the loader up, and then take the time, 30 minute, 15 minute, whatever, measure it and see how it would drop. The only thing with that is whenever you go to hook it back up, those hoses now have pressure against them, and you've got to get the pressure off of them.
So they're going to raise the loader up in the air and then disconnect hoses.
Right.
And there's no way oil could be going anywhere unless it's circulating through the system and the weight of the loader's pushing it down
Right.
through the cylinders.
Right, bypassing across the cylinder.
Right.
And that would tell you if it's leaking, if you get that drop with it unhooked, that's leaking across the cylinder. But if it holds itself for the hour that you've designated the time, then you would go back to the loader valve being where the leak is. And then the only thing you really can do is hope that the dealership would be willing to do something with the valve at that point.
And the only fix on the valve, because there's no seals inside it, and we're at a working dealership, you're going to hear some noise going past us here. There are big forklifts coming by. But there's no fix for the valve. So the bottom line is, if it's a valve issue, there's no way to fix the valve because it's all the components inside are
Machine fit
together, right? And so you can't pull it apart, put new seals in it, and install it.
Right.
So it's going to be a total valve replacement. Now, I think most tractors today, not just Coyote, but most brands, will have a drop. What's in your mind? If you were buying a tractor, if you were this customer, what's an acceptable rate of drop?
The 6 inches over an hour probably wouldn't bother me more than being an annoyance.
You've been on both sides.
I've been on both sides of this. I've as a mechanic, I've had to deal with that, but then as the service manager, I've had to deal with the unhappy customer with the product now that he's got to pay for eventually sometime. If it's only a 6-inch drop, it probably never will get worse than that unless it's a cylinder problem. If it's in the valve, it's probably just what it is.
Yeah.
You might get another valve that may be better. You might get the next one to be worse.
That's the scary thing, is when you bring the tractor in, you replace the valve, and it's worse.
Right.
And that can happen. And part of that is, and I'm not blaming Coyote, it's everybody. We as customers demand the cheapest price, and you get what you pay for. So sometimes you get, now, would there be an aftermarket joystick a guy could put on? It's going to be expensive, but is anybody making a deluxe joystick now that would prevent this problem?
Not that I'm aware of, because the valves are all built the same. We're talking down to 2 and 3 thousandths of clearance, and the machining, the tool may be faster one day and bore out the hole larger than it's supposed to, but we're talking thousandths of an inch.
Yeah.
And there's just no way of knowing. But like you had said, everybody's building the valves the same way. I don't think there's anything that would be better than one over another.
It's something that we're probably going to have to live with. If you got an older tractor that keeps the loader up in the air, hang on to it.
But we have seen it clear back in the early Fords. So, I mean, it's not something, like you said, it's not just on the Coyote. Everybody has these problems. We see all sorts of different lines come through with the same issue.
So bottom line for Jeremy, if it's a cylinder leak, make sure dealer fixes it. If it's a valve leak, you may have to live with it. All righty.
All right.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate you watching my videos. I'd be honored if you'd subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you can do that by clicking the mic face icon and checking the bell so you're notified when I post future videos. Here's a link to my website and the Tractor Fund Store with unique items for sale for the tractor owner to help support my channel. And here's another video you might want to watch. Thanks for watching.